You know, most of us think that aging is just this thing that happens to us, right? Like one day you just wake up and poof, your body decides to slow down. But that's not really how it works. Aging isn't random. It's actually driven by a handful of daily habits. Things so normal, so ordinary, that we never even think to question them. So today, we're gonna look at what those are, and more importantly, how to fight back. Okay, let's dive in. There's this quote from a geriatrician that is just wow, and he wasn't being dramatic. In medicine, the way a person moves, their gait, their balance, how confident they are on their feet, it tells a doctor more about their future health than almost any blood test. Mobility, it turns out, is the clearest window we have into how your entire body is doing. So this really goes against a huge myth out there, that how we age is mostly about our genes or just plain old luck. The truth is, it's way more in our control than we think. What really separates someone who's thriving from someone who's not, it's often not their DNA, but the small, consistent patterns they live out day after day. And this really drives the point home. Just picture two people. Both are 75 years old. One is out walking in the park, cooking their own meals completely independent. The other can barely get out of bed. Same age, right? But they're living in completely different bodies. So what's the deciding factor? It all comes down to a handful of daily habits. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're gonna break down 5 of these silent patterns. And I call them silent because they're so woven into our everyday lives, they're literally shaving years off people's health span. And most of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. First up is the thing that destroys our mobility faster than almost anything else: prolonged sitting. Now listen to that keyword, prolonged. It's not about the total amount of time you sit in a day. The real problem, the real danger, is how long you sit without getting up. Once you pass about 30 minutes in that chair without a break, that's when the damage really starts to set in. And to put this into perspective, there was a major study out of San Diego. They tracked thousands of older women, and what they found was just staggering. On average, they sat for 11 and a half hours every single day. And here's the kicker. That much sitting led to a 30% higher risk of death. But what's truly shocking is that this risk was high no matter how much they exercised. So that 1-hour walk you take in the morning, it's great, but it does not undo 11 hours of being sedentary. You just can't out-exercise this one. Now, the next habit is less about what our bodies are doing and more about what we're putting into them. It's a hidden danger that affects millions, taking a bunch of medications without a regular review. Now listen, I'm not saying people should stop taking their medicine. The point is that without proper oversight, the combination of all these drugs can actually become more dangerous than the diseases they're supposed to be treating. There's a medical term for this. It's called polypharmacy, and it's defined as taking 5 or more medications at the same time. The number of people this affects is, well, it's huge. Nearly half of all adults over the age of 75 are doing this every day. A recent large-scale study just makes the risks incredibly clear. Patients on 5 or more medications had a 2.4 times higher risk of death within a year, and a 2.5 times higher risk of ending up in the hospital. What happens is, each drug might be prescribed by a different specialist, and the crucial point is that nobody is looking at the big picture, at how they all interact together. All right, let's move on to habit number 3, inconsistent sleep. So many of us treat sleep like it's optional, right? Something you can just catch up on over the weekend. But you can't. Sleep is when your body does its most essential repair work. It's like the night crew coming in to clear out toxins from your brain and rebuild your immune system. And the data shows there is a definite sweet spot. This chart, it's based on a massive analysis. It shows that sleeping less than 7 hours a night raises your mortality risk by 14%. But look at the other side. Sleeping more than 9 hours raises it by a whopping 34%. Your body really thrives in that consistent 7 to 9 hour window. The fourth habit is one that's hiding in plain sight: chronic dehydration. Here's the thing, as we get older, our body's thirst mechanism gets weaker. The part of your brain that's supposed to shout, "Hey, I'm thirsty," it just gets quieter. And that means you can be significantly underhydrated and feel totally fine. So, and this is so important, you can't wait to feel thirsty. The National Institutes of Health tracked over 11,000 adults for 25 years. They found that people who showed signs of being chronically underhydrated, they developed 39% more chronic diseases. We're talking heart failure, dementia, and had a 21% higher risk of dying early. And our final harmful habit is one that most people don't even think of as a habit: constant stress. Stress isn't just a feeling in your head. It is a physical process. It's your body's response to life, and it's driven by the hormone cortisol. Now, in short bursts, that's totally fine. But when it's just on and on and on, that's when it becomes destructive. The key thing to get about stress is that it's a multiplier. It's like pouring gasoline on all the other fires. When you're stressed, you sleep poorly. You eat worse. You don't feel like moving. It basically pushes you toward every other bad habit on this list and just makes everything worse. Okay, so we've laid out all the problems. Now let's pivot to the solutions, because there is good news. I'm going to give you 3 simple, daily acts of resistance. These aren't huge, painful lifestyle overhauls. They are small changes that pack a really powerful punch. First, let's talk about how you eat. After you hit about 60, our bodies get less efficient at turning protein into muscle. It's a process called anabolic resistance. Now, the typical way people eat is to have most of their protein at dinner, but your body can't really store it all, so a lot of it just goes to waste. The optimal pattern? Spread it out. Just by including a palm-sized portion of protein with every meal, you can boost your muscle building by 20 to 30%. Our second action is unbelievably simple, and it directly fights back against that #1 killer we talked about, prolonged sitting. It's the 2-minute reset. All you do is, every 30 minutes, you just stand up. That's it. Walk to the kitchen, stretch your arms. The interruption itself is the key. That simple act restores blood flow, sends fresh oxygen to your brain, and wakes up your muscles. And if you're thinking, that's too small to matter, look at the return on investment. A study found that replacing just 60 minutes of sitting time with light activity, just standing and moving around a bit, slashed the mortality risk by a staggering 78%. That is an incredible result for such a tiny change. Finally, the third action is a simple routine to end your day. We'll call it the 10-minute reset. And what it does is quietly address 4 of the 5 habits we talked about. First, drink a full glass of water. Don't wait until you're thirsty. Second, take a quick look at tomorrow's medications. Third, put your phone in another room. Do not take it to bed. This one little routine tackles dehydration, polypharmacy, poor sleep, and stress. So, this all leads to one really powerful conclusion. How we age isn't written in our genes, it's written in our daily lives. And there's this fascinating study of superagers. These are people in their 80s and 90s who are in full health, totally independent, and it confirms everything. You see, what the researchers found really surprised everyone. These super healthy older adults didn't share some kind of magic longevity gene. Not at all. What they shared were patterns. They all moved throughout their day, they ate consistently, they slept well, they stayed connected, and they just paid this quiet, daily attention to their bodies. It wasn't their DNA, it was their habits. Look, the 5 habits we talked about today, they're not a death sentence. They're just a mirror. And the 3 actions we went over, they're not a magic cure. They're just a direction. So I'll leave you with this question. What is the one thing you're going to change tonight?